Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and move on to our overreaction, not overreaction segment of tonight's episode. As always, overreaction or not overreaction, I'll go ahead and give out a statement. And my first statement will be the Detroit Lions are the Philadelphia Eagles' biggest threat in the NFC.
Overreaction.
Overreaction. Why? We're forgetting about the Niners.
I was just about to say the Niners.
Yeah.
Overreaction.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Lions are like established enough to be that first threat to the Philadelphia Eagles. I feel like naturally it should be the 49ers considering how they played over the course of the last 2 weeks. I think, and dating back to last season. Of course, the Lions, like, don't get me wrong, they can definitely go up against any team, but at the same time, I feel like they're still in an infancy stage where they haven't really fully established themselves as being that contender in the NFC. They've had sparks, but even then, there's still question marks about them. But I just feel like the Niners should be the contender up against the Philadelphia, not the Lions. I feel like it's overreaction.
I agree with that. Being at the same time as I just think Jared Goff takes it as far as Jared Goff can go. I feel like he showed glimpses in that Bears game where he can struggle, and he threw 3 interceptions at the game. Although they came back and won, I just don't think that can happen against like the top teams if he plays against the Niners or he plays against the Eagles or he plays against the Cowboys. I feel like those mistakes against those top elite teams, they're gonna eat on that. So for me, I still don't think the team's phenomenal, but I just can't trust Jared Goff yet.
I don't know, man. I did say overreaction, but this Detroit Lions team, I thought yesterday was probably going to be the start of a losing streak for them. But somehow, some way, these guys were able to come back from being down 12 with 3 minutes left to go.
That's because the Bears made a call. That's why. Simple as that. The Bears made the call. Told them, yo, we got a pick to play for.
You got to relax.
You got to lose. You got to tank for Caleb, man. But I don't know, man. The thing is, this offense can really go toe to toe with anybody, and with the Philadelphia Eagles defense and the way they're shaped right now, their passing defense isn't necessarily the greatest. And what do the Detroit Lions do at an elite level? They pass the rock. And so, obviously defensively, I don't think they're as, good as the 49ers, I should say. But I think it's fair to say right now it's definitely an overreaction. But let's go ahead and move on to the next statement. We have the Cleveland Browns are still playoff contenders, even with Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback.
Not an overreaction.
Not an overreaction.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here and say not an overreaction, man.
This team just plays gritty football. It's as simple as that. Like, they just keep themselves in games. I mean, like this, they're gonna find themselves in like a nasty 17-13 game or 17-14 game, and somehow they pull it out. Like, that's just a state of this this team.
Them and Pittsburgh are twins. They play
they do the same thing.
Like, they're twins.
This last game was literally evidence of that. Like, these guys were 10. Like, score was 10 and 13 going into third quarter.
Right. I made a call to my TV company and I requested it for that game to get off the TV channel. Yeah. Like, at one point of the game, I think Dorian Thompson and Kenny Pickett had like 90 yards combined. It was heading to like the end of the third quarter. And I'm like, how do you two quarterbacks have like 90 yards passing combined? Like, what's going on? Yeah, but for me, overreaction, not an overreaction. I feel like this defense is very gritty. I feel like, it's going to be a lot of slow games for them. And I feel like they can come out of it. I feel like, I think they got the Bengals. What? They have the Bengals one more time?
They do got the Bengals one more time at the end of the season, last game of the year.
Funny thing is, they got a pretty favorable,
Yeah, I think
schedule.
They have a pretty winnable schedule. I think they can win
They have the Broncos, they have the Rams, they have the Jags, Bears, Texans, Jets, Bengals. It's a pretty solid schedule.
Yeah, so it's a gritty team. And them and Pittsburgh to me are the same team. I feel like they're Pittsburgh last year. We've seen Pittsburgh and go 6-1 in those last 7 games, and they're winning 13-10, 7-13, 19-16, 16-13. Those are the type of games we're going to see from them. So yeah, not an overreaction. One of those teams is going to make the playoffs.
Man, a couple of weeks ago, at one point, we had all 4 of these teams in the playoffs, and we have the Bengals dropping out with Joe Burrow's injury, and then all of a sudden, the Ravens are number 1. the Steelers are still right there, but I think they'll fall back down there. But for me, I'm going to go not an overreaction. I think their defense is still good enough to win them games, just like how they did yesterday. And I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson will only get better. I believe they did sign Joe Flacco to their practice squad. It's going to be interesting to see if he struggles a little bit. They're probably they made that move knowing that they have a serious shot at making the playoffs. And Joe Flacco, I'm not too sure what he has left in the tank, but it's probably going to be better than what Dorian Thompson-Robinson is doing at that point in the season. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. My next statement, might rally you guys up a little bit, but Dak Prescott is currently the best quarterback in the NFC.
Overreaction.
Overreaction. Hey, can I list that as W's? Please, can I list that as W's? Like, I think you're on mute. Your mic's on mute.
Oh, don't list out his W's. List out his numbers. List out his numbers for me.
Can I list that as W's?
You can list out his W's, but also list out the numbers though. Let's be fair now.
All right, Dak been hooping. I ain't gonna lie, Dak been hooping. I'm gonna keep it real with you, but 2 wins against the Giants. One of them against Tommy Soprano DeVito, one of the Soprano sons. He beat the 1-9 Panthers. That's not very well. He beat the Jets. He beat the Patriots. He beat the Chargers with the defense of us three leading them. Is that 6 wins or 7 wins so far? I'm missing 1 win, I'm pretty sure.
He beat the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Rams, the Giants again, and the Carolina Panthers.
Okay, so I did list everything. You see that? We see the wins, and we're gonna say he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
It's not about the wins, though.
He's talking about the best quote-unquote quarterback right now
in the
NFC.
Right now in the NFC. It's not about the wins. It's not about the losses.
I believe it's
2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I don't know how much running touchdowns he has.
I think it's Jalen Hurts.
For me,
he has 2 rushing touchdowns on the year.
Is it crazy if I say Brock Purdy's better? I ain't even gonna say Brock Purdy, to be honest. I think Jared Goff been a better quarterback.
We're not gonna sit here and discredit what Dak's been doing. That's what we're not gonna do tonight. We're not gonna do that.
I say Jared Goff been a better quarterback.
Jared Goff has not played as good as Dak Prescott these last 5 weeks.
Why are we talking about 5 weeks?
Jalen Hurts is the current best
He's the
quarterback.
best because I'm asking if Dak Prescott is the best quarterback in the NFC right now. As of right now, he's been playing like the best quarterback in the NFC, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL.
I disagree with that.
But that may be a reach. But we look at the numbers here since that Niners loss.
It's not like any AFC quarterback's been playing outside of Lamar these last 4 weeks. No one's been playing. You look at
nobody's been playing out of their mind. But it's only been one guy in the NFL that's been playing out of his mind, and it's Dak Prescott. 272, a touchdown against the Chargers, and a rushing touchdown. Against the Rams, 304, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Philadelphia Eagles, even though he lost, we did give him credit for what he did. 374, 3 tugs. Bounced back the following week, 404, 4 tugs, interception, and a rushing touchdown. So that's 5 total touchdowns in that game. And then just coming off of last week, this past game against the Carolina Panthers, he didn't necessarily have to do much. But 189, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 25 for 38.
Jalen Hurts has been the best quarterback in the NFC.
Against the Rams and the Giants those 2 weeks and up in his stats in the late game where they're blowing them out by 30.
Dak Prescott can't control who he plays on the schedule each and every week. What he can't control is his play. And his quarterback play has been nothing but short, nothing but elite these last 5 to 6 weeks ever since that loss against the Niners. We gave him all of that shit when he got blown out on primetime, but he's bounced back these last 4 or 5 weeks. He's been on a nice little tear. I believe he has, let me just count up the touchdowns. 1, 5, 8, 12, 14 to 2. So 16 total touchdowns to 2 interceptions and 0 fumbles. You can't sit here and tell me that there's been a better quarterback these last 5-6 weeks.
8 of those touchdowns came against the Rams and Giants, bro.
But he can't control who he plays next. He has to go out there and do his job. Why can't we sit here and give Dak Prescott the credit he deserves? He's playing great.
I just think Jalen Hurts has been playing the best out of any NFC quarterback. That's just what I think. I think these last 4, dating back to that Washington game, I think Jalen Hurts been playing the best. And on top of that, he beat Dak. So,
But did he have better numbers than Dak that game though? I have to.
pretty
I have to fact.
comparable.
I have to
I don't
fact
think
check
so.
that, man.
He had
207,
two
207,
touchdowns.
three total touchdowns compared to Dak's 3 touchdowns. Now, come on, man.
Pretty comparable. And then on top of that, he did beat Tua the week before. Well, he beat Washington and then Tua the week before that.
But what about tonight though? Tonight we're not going to sit here and
Like
say
ever
Jalen
since
Hurts had
that,
an amazing
like
game.
ever since, I mean, he's even at the worst, he still had 2 rushing touchdowns. Even at worst,
Tush push. Come on, man.
Who brought him for that second touchdown?
He got
Who brought
it.
him there?
I'll give him credit. Every time they get a touch push, he's the one that's
brought
getting
him
them down there. But at the same time, though, like overall, throwing the football, he wasn't necessarily the greatest tonight. He wasn't necessarily the greatest. Dak Prescott hasn't had a bad game since that game against the Niners, and that was damn near 2 months ago. We're about to be in December in 2 weeks.
Jalen Hurts is up against an elite defense. Has Dak played an elite defense all season?
And when he hasn't shown up.
The one time he played an elite defense, the one time
he ended up 150 yards.
I think Dak is red hot right now, sure, but I think Jalen Hurts played the best at any NFC quarterback as of right now.
Okay, let's be fair. Would you say it's close?
Yeah, I think it's relatively close just because of the week before when Dak had 4 touchdowns, and plus considering tonight Jalen Hurts didn't really have a good game.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and give you that. We'll be fair there. Let's go ahead and move on to my next statement. The NFC West race is over. The Niners have pretty much won that division.
What's the Seahawks record? 6-4.
Seahawks record 6-5. I think 6-5. Big H. You can confirm that for us.
What are the Niners?
6-4.
7-3.
7-3.
When do those two play each other? This week?
Thursday night.
They play each other this week, and then in 2 weeks they got another matchup.
December 10th.
I think, and your statement is, the Niners have basically wrapped up
the race.
West.
They've wrapped up their division. They've won their division.
Not an overreaction. I think right now the Niners have kind of, gotten back to their winning ways. They went into the bye. They were on a losing skid. Brock Purdy wasn't playing great. The defense, the secondary wasn't playing great. And they kind of found their footing. And my biggest issue with Seattle is the inconsistency on offense. It's just been an up and down season for them on the offensive end. I think their offensive line has been playing great. Gino, as of recently, he's kind of fixed up his play. I think he's been playing much better than he's been given credit for. That last drive, he brought him all the way to field goal range, and unlucky stuff. I feel like if the Seahawks had won that game, then I could comfortably say that's an overreaction because they would have played each other this Thursday, and that would have been really the deciding game. But you look on top of the fact that the next 4 games for Seattle, it's a tough schedule. I just think at this point now, with how the Niners are playing and the Seahawks offense inconsistencies, I think, it's kind of a wrap for the Niners.
We beating them Thursday night, baby. I got my answer.
So you're going. You're saying it's an overreaction.
Whatever you think it is. I just said we're beating them Thursday.
It's not what I think, buddy. It's what you think.
I just said we're beating them Thursday night. We end up winning the division.
It sounds like you're leaning towards overreaction. Biggest, you already know my answer, man. This is not an overreaction. I could have told you this 7 weeks ago. The Niners were going to win this division, even though they gave you guys hope. Though they gave you guys a little bit of a chance. They gave you a little chance, a little fight. You saw some light. You saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel when they dropped 3 straight.
Beating Baker Mayfield, coming back beating Baker Mayfield really don't mean that.
They beat Trevor Lawrence though, and they made Trevor Lawrence look like Baker Mayfield. So it's
Trevor Lawrence, Jags are high. They're not. Really,
why are we talking about what the Niners did? We should be sitting here tonight talking about what the Seahawks have been doing. What happened yesterday?
That's not
what happened yesterday.
That wasn't the question.
Let's go ahead and that's the reason why we're here tonight, buddy. We're here to discuss everything football related, man. What went wrong yesterday, man?
We missed the game-winning field goal. That's what went wrong.
We're not gonna blame anything on Geno Smith. How
Geno Smith had a good game. He got hurt. One guy came in. He had 2 passes. One of the passes was a pick. And then the Rams went on a 6-minute drive. Hey, what else could we do? Geno Smith came back, got us into, position, territory to kick a field goal. We had I think the play before the field goal that we took, I guess there was a comms issue. I guess Pete Carroll did not want to run the ball, or he wanted a different play call. And I guess Geno Smith couldn't hear the play call. The comms went out. They kind of rushed the run. I guess they wanted to throw the ball to DK Metcalf right there, just get a couple yards, get 4 or 5 yard gain, and we move on from that. But other than that, I feel like, the penalties just killed us in the game. We gave up, I don't know, I think more than 170, 180 yards of penalties. But like a couple of them towards the late of the game, or some BS calls. I think Tutu Atwell had like 4 penalties that they were called on him. All balls were uncatchable. 2 of them were going out of bounds. 2 of them were 30 yards deep, and they still called it. And then they called another penalty on Puka Witherspoon in the end zone, where Puka clearly tripped over his own feet. Nobody touched him. Fell down to the ground. It was a 3rd and goal, and they called the penalty on that. Kind of shot us in the foot where they scored. But ultimately, I feel like, offensive has been very inconsistent. We showed a lot in the first half. We're up, and then slowly 3rd quarter wasn't much. Geno gets hurt. 4th quarter wasn't much, and then we ended with a missed field goal. And then to add to insult, Kenneth Walker got a oblique injury. Pete Carroll said it might look tough. They might put him on IR. So we losing one of our good running backs. And to end it like that is tough. So I feel like the penalty shot us in the foot. That's about it.
You're not in the beginning of a gauntlet where obviously you started
I
off.
don't want to go through that gauntlet right now.
I gotta remind you a little bit. What's to come? It's not easy sledding these next 4 or 5 weeks, man. You started off with the division foe with the Los Angeles Rams. They do get the sweep on you. Now we're looking at the Niners, the Cowboys, the Niners, and Philly. You being a Seattle fan, you probably think you're going to go 3-1 or 2-2 at worst. But realistically, if you had to be very realistic, in these next 4 games, predict the Seattle Seahawks record. 4 weeks from now, what are we talking? What are we talking about the Seattle Seahawks?
Every year, the last 3 to 4 years, every year has been, coming into this against the Niners. Niners going to sweep y'all. Niners going to sweep y'all. Niners going to sweep y'all season-wise. Niners only done, I think, like once in the last 5 years.
They did it last year, though.
Once in the last 5 years. It's just last year. It's once in the last 5 years. I feel like, divisional games like the Rams, like the Cardinals, like the Niners, there's always going to be splits. And there's always going to be one of those teams that are going to cook us 2-0. It's always been the Rams for us. We always struggle with the Rams. I feel like, we come into this gauntlet. I ain't worried about the Cowboys. I feel like I can't wait till we see Dak Prescott. But I think we still won from the Niners. I think we go 2-2. And I'm being honest 100% about that.
You're not worried about the Cowboys with how red hot they've been playing?
Man, beating Carolina and the Giants, bro. They've been red hot. I swear to God.
It's about how your team looks, though.
The game's over. The game's over before we started when playing with guys. They already, those guys already took their, post-game showers and everything. It's over. It was no competition. I mean, expecting to say the Cowboys, hey, this is what we're gonna base them off of, beating the Panthers and the Giants. This is what we're gonna. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. We've seen them against great defenses, and they struggle. I feel like we got one of the best.
They have an elite defense themselves, though.
They have a great defense. I'm saying their offense, when they see elite defenses, I feel like they struggle. It has been in the past. We've seen it in the past, and I feel like our defense is phenomenal. So I think they're gonna struggle against us. I think we're gonna put Dak in the little box. I think our defense is phenomenal. They've been keeping us in every game this year since you said our offense is shit. There's no reason for us to be in any games if our offense and defense are shit, right?
I mean, these last 4 weeks, I'll give you yesterday. Yesterday was a little close one.
Barring
gave up 26 to the Commanders.
Man,
he has Sam Howell out there looking like a top 10 quarterback, and he fell back down to earth.
He was never a top 10 quarterback. He was never a top 10 quarterback.
He was hooping, though. He was hooping. It came down to another Geno Smith game marching down the field, game-winning drive.
Like I said, defense, they play phenomenal. Barring, I think, the Baltimore week. Other than that, I feel like they play great in every game. Other than the Baltimore week, other than getting cooked 33-0 that week, I think they've been putting on a performance. Like I said, the Cowboys beating the Panthers, beating the Giants doesn't show me anything. Anything.
All right.
Beating the Commanders, beating the Giants, beating Panthers, beating the Patriots, beating the Jets.
Can't they say the same thing about you, though?
They can say the same thing about us, but you're saying the Cowboys are a lead of the elite.
They're a good team. Their record shows it, though. Their record does show it.
The record doesn't show anything. We know the Cowboys. It's the same thing every single year. We talk about this. The record shows it, but the first week playoffs comes.
That's a different story. I can't sit here and defend them in the playoffs, but
it's the same. It's the same. They play ass teams, they win. They play good teams, they lose. So I said 2-2.
So you're saying 2-2? We'll go ahead and get you on record saying that. So in 4 weeks we'll be able to revisit this conversation once this gauntlet is over. And then of course, let's go ahead and move on to another statement that I got. The Denver Broncos will make the NFL playoffs, or just will make the playoffs. I don't know why I said NFL.
Overreaction. I think there's just too many of those 6-4, 7-3 teams just sitting there, and it's just kind of hard to trust the Broncos to be able to, steal a spot. Maybe in a couple more games we could revisit this conversation, but as of right now, I think there's just too many teams that just have that 6-4, 7-3, that extra win or two over them, where I don't feel confident enough to saying they're going to make the playoffs.
They're in a tough division too.
They're in a tough division, tough conference. I'm gonna go a little bit of overreaction. A couple weeks it may be different, like I said, but right now it's gonna be overreaction. But I got a very good last one. The Baltimore Ravens can't be taken seriously as contenders. As Super Bowl contenders, I should say.
Overreaction, the biggest of the overreactions.
Overreaction. That's crazy to say.
That's a huge overreaction.
Why can't they be taking us?
I'm gonna say not an overreaction. I'm gonna say not an overreaction because let's go back 2 weeks ago. This Thursday night game wasn't really much of a matchup against the Bengals, where obviously it was between Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow getting hurt. It was pretty much a dub in the bag. 2 weeks ago, though, they ended up playing the Cleveland Browns on their home turf. Things were going well on that first drive. They get a pick 6 on Deshaun Watson, but the game is a little bit back and forth. The defense for both sides didn't necessarily show up. Actually, they showed up a little bit, but in the end, the Browns were able to.
Your mic cut out.
Mike went out. I take it with a grain of salt. It's a division game. Like I said, you face division rivals, man. It's different. Much different.
Things happen in those type of games, to be honest.
It's much different football.
And the Browns defense really showed up in that second half anyways. I think it's like, can we go sit down and say, Brock Purdy lost to the Browns, so they shouldn't be taken serious as contenders. The Browns gave him hell. Lamar Jackson had a better day than Brock Purdy had against the Browns. I understand there's some weather conditions, but overall, Brock Purdy didn't have a great day against the Browns. I think Lamar had a much, much better day. At the end of the day, I think that when you look at just overall on top of how great the Ravens have played, you got to also factor in the fact that the AFC, there's no one that's been playing out their mind. You have the Dolphins who still haven't gotten a statement win against a good team. You have the Bills who've just been, they got to win this weekend against the Jets, but over the course of the season they've been struggling. They've not played up to their standards. You have the Jags who, again, another team that hasn't been playing up to their standards. Bengals just lost their starting quarterback. The Browns don't have a quarterback. The Steelers don't have a quarterback. They don't have good offense. The AFC isn't in a great position as it stands right now. And the Baltimore Ravens, from top to bottom, I understand that they've lost their star tight end in Mark Andrews, but they still have Lamar Jackson and they still have that good defense. They still have that great rushing attack, and I think they should be taken seriously as contenders, especially when you look at the AFC and on the state of it right now. The Chiefs have been struggling themselves, so I think where it stands is they definitely need to be taken serious.
100%.
So that game against the Browns, against an elite defense, didn't concern you whatsoever?
Nah,
Jackson.
It's a divisional game, Of course, you want to win those.
It's an elite defense, though.
It's a divisional game.
Games. We've seen last year the Bengals almost lose to the Ravens with Tyler Huntley as the Ravens quarterback. You take away that 99-yard, was it a fumble recovery for a touchdown or a pick 6? Take that away from the Bengals, man. It's a whole different story. Like I said, if you look at those two teams that year or last year in that game, we know the Bengals had a much better roster. Barring because Lamar's hurt. I feel like, division games, it doesn't matter who you have on the field, it's still going to be competitive, regardless of who's playing or not.
But it's right now, I'm just questioning how good the Ravens are when they run into an elite defense.
Browns are one of
in this situation, they ran into the best defense, and it's the division rival. So the stakes are even a lot harder and a lot higher.
It should be saying a lot that they put up 30 against them. Just putting that out there. The fact that they still ended up putting 30 on that Browns defense says a lot. It's a divisional game. The Browns were able to really dig in that second half and play much better. But I don't put too much stock in this because then at this point, who is considered if the Baltimore Ravens aren't considered a contender, then who the hell deserves to be called a contender? Because the Niners lost to the Browns defense that you're talking about. They couldn't even put up points as much as them. The Seahawks and the Lions, they both got their chest kicked in by the Ravens. The Cowboys, they got their chest kicked in by the Niners elite defense. Tua can't get a win against an elite defense. The Jaguars haven't looked good against any team. Their offense has been terrible. We don't even need to talk about the Bills because Josh Allen's been struggling and the entire offense has just been up and down. Chiefs, like, same situation. Like, who's a contender if the Baltimore Ravens aren't considered a contender? Let's be honest here. Nobody's a contender in the NFL at that point. The Philadelphia Eagles, really, that's it. They're the only standing team.
That's a very very fair point, man. And even though we didn't have the opportunity to talk about the Buffalo Bills a little bit, we'll go ahead and dive into them a little bit right now. Right now, even though they got a very big win against the New York Jets, I think they settled a record of 6-5. They're in danger of missing the playoffs. You guys think they miss out, or they somehow, some way sneak in?
I mean, I think they'll find a way to sneak in. But like, my thing is, like, I feel like this was just like, I didn't think that they needed to fire their offensive coordinator. The reason why I say that is like when you look at like Mina Kimes, she kind of posted like a bunch of metrics on like the Bills offense and like they're basically top 5 in everything offensively. Like they've just been in terms of like how they've been performing. They've been playing. Of course, they've had their struggles with. It's just been the turnovers that's just been absolutely killing the Bills offense. Overall, when you look at their production and their yards and their points, they've been good. They've been at the top of the league. But the turnovers have just been killing them. And I feel like they were essentially trying to look at somebody and try to scapegoat someone and say, hey, we're struggling because of these guys. But I really think the biggest issue is that the Buffalo Bills personnel it's kind of overrated. They're not that good. Like, the running backs, James Cook, I think he's a good pass catching back, but he's not, a back that you're just going to hand the ball like 15 to 20 times. Gabe Davis, he's had his moments, but he's not really a wide receiver too. And when Stephon Diggs gets blanketed, who is the, reliable option? Dalton and Kincaid, he's kind of showed up, but I feel like that plus a combination of Josh Allen playing hero ball has just kind of put the Bills in, in a terrible situation, where they stand. And I feel like they kind of just needed to point the finger at somebody, and that was their offensive coordinator. They needed to blame Ken Dorsey, and that was the guy that they wanted to scapegoat.
Man, this Bills team to me, I don't know, man. It has its up, it has its downs, and it all starts off with Josh Allen. I feel like, Josh Allen, those stupid mistakes that he has, those stupid turnovers, those stupid interceptions that he does, he got to kind of calm it down. He got to open up his eyes. He got to relax. He don't got to make those tough throws. Second, they really don't got a run game. It's like, it's really non-existent. Josh Allen's not really running the ball. James Cook is not your physical type back where he's going to get you those 6-7 yards where you can guarantee 22, 23 carries from him where he can average 4 yards a carry, get you that 80, 90 yards a game, like a physical back like David Montgomery. Other than that, Diggs is your only receiver. You got Dalton Kincaid. He's a rookie. He's young. He's here and there sometimes. Gabe Davis is not your solid two. And there's nobody else after that. Yesterday they won. I mean, Khalil Shakir showed up. Dalton Kincaid had a good game. I think James Cook had a good running game. They involved the run game, but other than that, nobody else was there to help, Josh Allen. It was only Khalil Shakir, and he's like a third, fourth string on the team. Diggs was, blocked. Sauce Gardner was all over him. Gabe Davis really didn't do much. And then it happens. They faced a good Jets team, not a great offensive team. So, they struggled offensively on the ball. They didn't get to put points on the board. But defensively, they're a phenomenal team. But I think the Bills, in the future, when they come up against the other teams, like, they face the Eagles, I think they face did they face the Chiefs or no?
They have they have the hardest remaining schedule in all of football. They have the Eagles next on the road. They have the Kansas City Chiefs after that on the road. And they have the Dallas Cowboys, the Chargers on the road, Patriots, and they close out the season playing the Miami Dolphins. So it's the hardest remaining schedule in football.
I don't think they make the playoffs. I ain't gonna lie. It's going to be a tough struggle for them. I feel like when they go up against good teams and good defenses, they struggle a lot. So I don't think they make the playoffs, man. But, you got Josh Allen. You got one of the, elite premier quarterbacks in the league. And then you guys just got to hopefully he pulls through and, stops making those mistakes.
And that's the thing, before going into this Jets game all week on social media, everybody was giving Josh Allen shit for the turnover issues that he's been having all season. It's just like and the way I think about it, it's like if Josh Allen doesn't play hero ball, the Buffalo Bills have absolutely no chance at winning any single game. He has to be the guy that, is leading the team in passing while also making heroic plays. At the same time, he has to be able to be the best runner on the team because they don't have a true 3-down back that they can rely on. And so for Josh Allen, I feel like the odds are kind of stacked against him. He has, some solid weapons. Obviously, you have Diggs and then Gabe Davis. I'm not a fan of him at all. Dalton Kincaid's been great, but it's those hero plays that have been really helping Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills get to, it's been helping them, be the offense that they are today, leading the league in all metrics and, touchdowns in the red zone and, just offense in general. That starts because of Josh Allen and it ends with Josh Allen. And I know the turnovers are a big issue, but I feel like people kind of have to overlook that simply because if Josh Allen doesn't put the ball in harm's way or he doesn't make a throw that's, 50-50, the Buffalo Bills have absolutely no shot at winning any football game. So the Buffalo Bills are asking Josh Allen to do that. Josh Allen is going out there and he's making throws that his coaching staff is confident in his ability to make those type of throws. And they have to just live with the results. Sometimes it's going to be a turnover and sometimes it's going to be a 65-yard bomb. And, each and every week is going to be different. And at the end of the day, when the Bills lose and look at Josh Allen's turnovers, that's the easiest thing to point out and scapegoat. You could just say Josh Allen turned over the ball a lot. But at the same time, it's like Josh Allen has to do pretty much everything for this team to even have a chance at winning. And without all of that, it's not really fair. It's not really much of a chance. They don't really have a shot at winning anything. And so, for the Buffalo Bills, man, I do think they miss out on the playoffs. This schedule is just too tough, and I don't necessarily trust this defense. And with Josh Allen having the players around him, the personnel that you mentioned, Abdi, I just can't trust it when they go up against these top teams. Philly's going to be a tough test. Dallas will be a tough test. They do have another divisional matchup against Miami, which is a tough test. And so, they dropped the games they were supposed to win. They should have beat the Broncos, even though they're red hot right now. They lost to the Patriots. They lost on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. And so when you lose games you're supposed to win, at the end of the season, you're going to look back and you're going to sit there and tell yourself like, man, I wish I could have had this one back. I wish we could have won this game. I wish we could have won that game. And so for the Buffalo Bills, man, they made their bet. They got a lie in it. But at the end of the day, I don't think the blame should be going on Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, although his turnover issue is a big issue, I think it should be overlooked just based on the fact that he has to do everything for this team to have a chance to win. The guy that should be in question is their head coach, Sean McDermott, who has defensive, play calling duties. He's not doing a good enough job at calling defensive plays for this team. And I know that they are missing a couple of guys on that side of the ball, but at the end of the day, firing your offensive coordinator and then coming out and having a game like this doesn't necessarily sweep everything up under the rug. We're going to see what this team is capable of on the defensive side of the ball in these upcoming weeks where they got all these tough matchups. And next thing you know, he might just be on the hot seat. And so don't be surprised if this Buffalo Bills franchise somehow, some way just moves off from Sean McDermott as a whole and kind of go in a different direction because they haven't been the same since they lost Brian Daboll 2 years ago. But with that being said, though,
I think that the Brian Daboll part is the underrated part that not a lot of people mention. Him and Josh Allen kind of had a relationship. I feel like he was like a big part in Josh Allen's development, and they had one of their better years under him as the OC. And I feel like losing him, they kind of shifted Josh Allen to play into this hero ball. And they also, the fact that the personnel, like Sean McDermott is an excellent, defensive play caller for the most part. But I feel like, losing Brian Daboll is a big hit to Josh Allen. So I feel like the offense has performed, but at the same time, it's not what it was back in 2020 or 2021. So we'll just have to see.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Yes, now late, now that's overkill.